Now you guys will probably notice that with all of the weight off of the suspension on this car, it's the typical ride height that your average Foxbody would achieve to be. All right, guys, the time is here. The Stalkervert is going to go on its first official test drive on the full QA1 suspension setup. This car is now back slammed down even lower than when I had it before. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned. We're going to talk about the history of the car a little bit. We're going to talk about the new suspension setup, and most importantly, we're going to get this thing off the lift, off the 2x4s, and out on the street. So stick around. So here we are. It's been a journey, and this car has been in and out of my life for decades now. And there's a couple videos, there's podcasts, there's stories galore if you guys are new to the channel. But the Stalkervert has been in my life for over 20 years now. And over those 20 years, the car's gone through multiple iterations of paint, of interior, of motor mods, and most importantly, suspension mods and wheels and tires. So I know that if you guys are a drag light or drag star, quarter mile kind of guy, or you're not a convertible guy, this video might not be for you, but I think a lot of people can appreciate what's gone on here, because we have what people would typically think is racing or drag racing suspension from QA1. Well, I've turned it into stance suspension with big wheels, low pro tires, and to be honest, well, the car is just badass. This is one of those cars that I love to hate it, right? I call it the Black Foxbody curse, or part of it. I have some stories about it in the past, and you guys are more than welcome to go and explore those videos. So with that said, guys, I've done everything suspension related to this car. I've gone from traditional lowering springs. I've tried the Racecraft drop spindles. I've done spindles and lowering springs. I've done cut springs. I've done my own custom coil adjustable spring perches, if you will. Before LMR and Raceland and all those guys even came to market, I already had it. And the car always sat nice, well, at least in my opinion. And I kept wanting to push the bar. I even had coilovers in the front of this car, even though, you know, I'm not a huge coilover guy. And ironically, well, there's coilovers back in the car now, because let's be real. We get a set of coilovers, we find the ride height that we want, we set it, we forget it, and we're done. A lot of us don't use coilovers for their purpose, and that is for tweaking and modifying and enhancing our street use versus race use and all of these different things. A lot of us guys, we just go out there, we buy what we need to get the ride height that we want to achieve, or the ride quality that we want to achieve, and then that's it. We leave it there. So before we get this car off the lift, it is on the lift. So let's get the car back up, and we'll talk about the suspension real quick, even though there's full in-length videos about it. So that way, you know, you guys can get a pretty good idea of what's underneath this thing, and we'll start it up and get it out on the street. Welcome to the underside of the Stalkervert. Now guys, this is not a perfect car. This is a car that's been almost a prototype car for me and has gone through so many different suspension iterations and everything else that, you know what I mean? It's a work in progress, a never-ending one, and I am absolutely fine with that. So you can actually see here drill marks in the LCA mount, and this is when I actually had a set of Dutch grabbers installed on the car, which those grabbers drop the lower control arm down lower. And of course, this is before the days of the Maxim Motorsport and everything else that was dropping stuff. And, you know, that served its purpose, right? I got an extra 3/4 of an inch of drop in the back, and everything was good. And then on top of that, right, I had the adjustable spring perches. There they are right there, sitting down on the ground. You can see That is actually from an E36 BMW, and well, I retrofitted it to make it work on a Fox lower control arm. So here we are, QA1 mod series, and this is the shortest coilover housing that they have that I was able to get in here to achieve the ride height that I wanted. And we can see we got all these nice little settings and stuff here that I have no idea how they work. I'm gonna have to do some research on that. And right now they're out of the box set. So we're gonna try that first. We got remote reservoirs here, which is a great feature when you're slammed down on the ground. What else do we have? We have the lower control arms. They do still have a spring perch, even though we don't have springs. We got the QA1 rear sway bar, which is pretty slick in terms of the way that it mounts. We have the QA1 adjustable upper control arms here. So there is a bushing on the carrier side. They aren't solid there, but they are solid on this side. So I will be curious to know how the rear is going to feel with the Heim style joint there. Put on a fancy diff cover. You can see because of low life, I had to beat in the spare tire well here so we could get clearance, and hopefully there is enough clearance still. I might have to do more clearancing. We'll see if we hear bangs and bumps when we drive the car down the road. Aside from that, typical subframe connectors from back in the day, nothing on the transmission side of things. And in the front here, well, this is where a lot of the magic happened. We have the full QA1 K-member in the front. We got lower control arms, which are a little bit of a battle. You guys can watch the previous video. I had to go to their older style to make sure that the wheel wasn't offset and sticking more towards the front because I wasn't getting the clearance that I needed. So aside from that, coilovers in the front. You can see I've spun the housings down just far enough to clear, right, the spindle nuts and everything else here. Might be able to actually get that to go down further with a little bit of creativity, but everything is working, and you can see we just have enough clearance with our 18 by 10 inch wheels in the front. That's right, 18 by 10. So we got the QA1 caster camber plates up top, which are really slick, and of course all the typical motor mount stuff. One thing that I want to note, this being a convertible, we no longer have the supporting X-brace that would typically go from here to the bottom side of the K-member, and then from the K-member to the lower radiator support. So that is now gone. So that is the underside of the car in a nutshell. If you guys are curious, I have full installation videos of the whole shebang, and I'll link to them up there in the top corner or down in the description below. And you guys can check those out and see what it took to get all this suspension in the car. So with that said, let's get the car back down on the ground and get this thing outside. Putting the car down, and I'm like, you know what, I should probably get some tire shine on the tires and fix a couple little spots in terms of detailing so the car's clean for the video. And then I remembered an important point. Now you guys will probably notice that with all of the weight off of the suspension on this car, it's the typical ride height that your average Fox body would achieve to be. You know what I mean? So this gap here, gap in the front, not too far off this guy right here, to be honest. This one is probably sitting a tad bit lower, but you guys know what I mean. Like, this is actually probably sitting lower on the lift than one of the Dutch cars up there. It's almost lowered with no weight on the suspension. looking pretty sick. In case you're wondering about exhaust clearance, there it is. You can also see how low the rear sway bar actually is on that lower control arm. It's pretty crazy. All right, let's try and drive this thing. There's no tricks, no funny business. You guys can actually see how low that sway bar mount is there. The exhaust is lower, so the exhaust is my braking point. You can see I did remove the maker's front splitter off the front. I need the, it's just too much of a liability. Always good to let the faster traffic go by you first. So, car's driving pretty straight based off my quick trick alignment that I did there. Guys, like, I know the GoPro is probably moving around a bit here, but the car actually drives really damn good. And that is how low the exhaust is on this car. So if anything, I'd say I'd want to actually stiffen up the rear suspension a bit. It's actually softer than I expected it to be. But the reality is, we've got, like, it's not like we're driving on washers or anything. Like, we've actually got some comfort going on here. We have one ever so slight rub, and it's on the driver's side rear tire. Guys, it's like, just, I can fix it with a hammer, or maybe I can adjust the upper control arm, so I'll have to see if I have a little bit more room where I can just shift the rear end over. Like, we're talking like the minuscule, like we're just kind of rubbing the perforated edge off the tire. In fact, it might self-clear itself. You can smell a little bit of tire right now, like it's nothing crazy. I'll show you in a minute. This is where we're losing a little bit of tire here. Old Stalkervert can lay some rubber. See where I hit second gear, got a little squirrely. Not too bad, right? For a slam down, big wheel, low profile tire. Still a Foxbody. Vibrations in the steering wheel. Right, still go around corners. Let's get some pics. Mark this down for a huge success, I really do. Other than like that tiny little bit of tire rubbing, but these sharp corners, there's no rubs. Oops. That is an 18 by 10 in the front, 255/35. Got to get the steering dialed in a little bit better here, but other than that, nothing that the quick trick alignment won't fix. This car handles like it's on absolute rails. If anything, the caster I need to play with a little bit, which caster is always overlooked. But otherwise, guys, what a successful trip. Let's get home and recap the video. All right, well, the battery should be charged up now, and I think we had, oh man, I haven't had this much fun in a real long time. And you know, the love-hate with the Stalkervert, but this is definitely a love-it type moment. The car is lower, it's riding better, it's running great, and I did a lot of tune-up items and miscellaneous stuff before Foxtoberfest 2023, and the car was running pretty good there, but the suspension, it was tired, guys. It had old shocks, it had old Raceland coilovers in the front, and huge shout out to QA1 for helping me make this possible. Never would I have thought all of those, I don't know, racy style components would be applicable in an ultra slammed application. Now, I've pushed this car to the absolute extreme. This is not your average daily driven Fox. This isn't something that you would want to take on roads that you're unfamiliar with. We'll put it that way, unless you got some 2x4s in the trunk with you so you can help yourself get over the speed bump or some sort of obstacle that could be in the road. But guys, a little bit of tire rub in the back, which is nothing. And if you guys are curious, right, we got, like I said, this is a square setup. It's 18 by 10 all the way around, 255/35s all the way around. And I'm driving, going around corners and everything else in the front with a wire tuck, and I don't have problems up there. Of course, the fender lips are rolled, but keep in mind too, I got pre-91 fenders on here, right? 87. So you don't always need the bigger fenders to clear things the way that you want or the way that you think. There are no spacers on these wheels. These are an ET19 offset, right? Nothing crazy in the front. 94 spindles, 94, 95 spindles. So technically 3 millimeters of extra track width, if anything, in the front. And the rear is factory track width back there. And, you know, if you guys are wondering, they're Oz Opera wheels, which are very similar to your traditional old school Mercedes, you know, SL 500 look, which has always been a car on my bucket list, to be honest with you guys. So I feel like if Mercedes and the Foxbody had a baby, this is probably what it would look like, and I couldn't be happier. So success, another one to tick off the list. This car is actually, other than me probably just massaging that rear quarter lip a little bit to get rid of those tire rubs, which honestly I wasn't even smelling it on the way home. I think it just kind of took off a little bit of the rubber knobbies, but this suspension is firm, guys. Car is planted to the ground. You saw it take off on the little straight stretch there, and man, what an absolute blast. So it can be done. Don't say it can't. If you guys are trying to achieve something, you just gotta put your mind to it, stay dedicated to it, and persist. And this is it. The next mods, like honestly, the car is running so good. I got a set of newer injectors and a mass airflow meter, but honestly guys, it's like one of those things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The car's running absolutely beautifully, not even a tune. You guys saw it. This thing idles, it doesn't buck, it doesn't surge, it does everything that it's supposed to do. Factory A9L, and it just does its thing. So anyways, enough about the Stalkervert. We'll catch you here next time back on the Infamous Project.